My name is Leonie Clark. I'm the General Manager here in IMVO, and we're delighted to welcome you here all to our webinar for wholesalers this afternoon. I'm joined by a number of my colleagues on the call. We have Ita Gordon, our IT Manager, Paul Byrne, our Senior Operations Executive, and Sarah McLaughlin, then our Administration and Communications Executive. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hand over to Ita and Paul are going to take you through most of the webinar today, which will include a demonstration of NMBS alerts. And I'll give you a quick update on Brexit at the end. And then if there's any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat at any time and we'll look at them at the end, or at the end we'll give you a chance if you want as well to put up your hand, and if you want to speak, that's fine. And just to say, we're recording the webinar. We will stop the recording before we start the questions, so just that you're aware of that. So without any further ado, I'll hand you over to Ita. Thank you, Ita.
Thanks, Leonie. Can I just ask you, Leonie, can you see my slides okay? Or our slides okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Great, thank you. Yeah, welcome everybody to our wholesaler webinar. We have a lot on our agenda today, but I suppose the primary focus will be on phase 3 of the use and learn, or the ending of use and learn. Just to run through the outline of what we're going to be covering today, just housekeeping at the beginning. So if you can, please just stay on mute until the questions and answers at the end. I'll start off with a quick FMD refresher, and then we'll have a look at alerts, an alert overview and what's been happening from a wholesaler perspective of late. Then we're going to have a look at the phases for planning for end of use and learn, with a specific focus on guidance for wholesalers for phase 3 of that plan. We're then going to have a demo of our NMBS alert system, which is the tool we want to use for managing alerts and resolving alerts. And then an update on Brexit, and then we have an ask of you, the wholesaler, and then just sort of our usual slides where we just give you our contact points here at IMVO, and then we'll finish off with any questions and answers you may have for us. So just to run through a quick FMD refresher, when do wholesalers have to verify medicine? Remember that a risk-based approach is to be applied. At a minimum, the following packs must be verified: returns from customers or another wholesaler, all stock received from any wholesaler other than the manufacturer, or a wholesaler who is the designated wholesaler. It's not necessary to verify stock where it changes ownership but remains in physical possession of the same wholesaler, or it's distributed between warehouses belonging to the same wholesaler or legal entity and no sale takes place. What do we mean by verification? It, of course, means scanning the 2D barcode to verify the authenticity of the unique identifiers of each pack against the data held in the IMVS. Verification may be done at any time after receipt of the pack and prior to dispatch. Products that are flagged as decommissioned in the IMVS, for example, decommissioned as dispensed, recalled, withdrawn, etc., when you verify them, they cannot be distributed if they're decommissioned like that. Packs flagged as potential falsifications must be reported to the national competent authority, but already these alerts are automatically forwarded by the IMVS to the HPRA, which is already fulfilling this requirement. Designated wholesalers. If you receive stock from a manufacturer or an MAH or their designated wholesaler, you don't have to verify these packs on receipt, although many wholesalers do this voluntarily. Packs from all other sources must be scanned and verified at goods inwards. If you need a list of designated wholesalers for a specific product, it can be requested from the IMVS database by your FMD software provider. And most software has been programmed to facilitate this, but just check with your FMD software provider if you do require this. You can also click on the link IMVO video on designated wholesalers for further guidance. And of course, we'll be sharing these slides after the webinar, so you'll have that link. When do wholesalers have to decommission packs? So they have to be decommissioned if the stock is being physically distributed outside the EU and you decommission the packs as exported. NB stocks going to the UK should not be decommissioned as exported due to derogations in place relating to Brexit. So that's one we do get asked quite a bit. Returns that cannot be returned to saleable stock, stock intended for destruction, packs being supplied as samples to competent authorities, or packs being supplied to persons or institutions covered by Article 23 exemptions. And by Article 23, we do mean, for example, hospices, nursing homes, doctors, dentists, etc. And note, this exemption can't be applied to medicines supplied to healthcare institutions, i.e. hospitals or in or outpatient clinics or health centres. Decommissioning activity. So Article 23 decommissioning. For that, you must ensure that the customer meets the Article 23 criteria and does not intend to scan the packs themselves. If you've any doubt about who or what is at Article 23 location, the HSE maintains a list of those. Other decommissioning activity, for example, marking packs as locked, destroyed, exported, etc. Make sure your processes are set up to prevent decommissioning activity being repeated. Repeated attempts may generate alerts, which is what, of course, you want to avoid. And be aware that if you decommission packs as destroyed or stolen, those states are not reversible. Now, for the next section, we're going to just give you a bit of an overview on the alert side of things, and my colleague Paul is going to cover that for us.
Super. Thanks very much, Ida. Yeah, so first of all, we're just going to go into what type of alerts are usually generated by wholesalers and their most common causes. So the first one that we're just going to talk through in this list is batch not found. So these, we might refer to these as A2 alerts, but you'll see them as batch not found. Most of the time, this is where the data isn't in the IMVS. So the scan goes to check the IMVS, and one of the first things they do is check whether the batch is there. And if it's not found there and it's not found in the EU hub, well, we're not going to be able to find the details of that pack, and that's the type of alert that happens there. So for instance, the common alerts are usually MAH error here, where the data just wasn't uploaded to the IMVS, or the MAH actually kind of knows what they're doing about it, that it was shipped under quarantine and they may have just been scanned before the actual data was released. The next type of alert here, a pack with serial number not found. So we might refer to these as A3s, but you'll see them as pack with serial number not found. Again, it's the most likely cause of this one is a data upload error, and perhaps sporadically a few software issues. But these ones are a lot less common than the A2s. Usually when the data is not uploaded, it won't be uploaded for the entire batch, and you'll get the batch not found ones rather than the serial number not found, because they're not going to upload some of the serial numbers without others in the vast majority of cases. So then the next one is just the pack being already in the request state. We could refer to these as A7s, and these by and large are procedural errors. So these have been already marked as supplied or destroyed or dispensed or anything like that. And then a scan comes through to try and mark them as that again. And that will raise alerts and cause errors. And that's by and large, again, procedural error. Similar for status stage could not be performed, which we might call an A24. This is very similar to the one above. However, instead of trying to put a pack into a state that it's already in, it's trying to put it into a conflicting state. So the pack might have already been supplied, and then looking to put it into the destroyed state or anything like that will cause similar alerts to the A7s. It's just where there's a bit of a kind of conflict within the pack states. And then the last two here are just some kind of data errors. So an expiry date mismatch or a batch mismatch, which are going to be an A52 and an A68 respectively for us. And these pretty much always are going to be scanner and software issues. So for instance, the expiry date mismatch, if you're some of the softwares will just put it in as zeros or something like that, it might not fully capture what's there in that data field. And then for the batch mismatch, there's a lot of kind of options for this one to go wrong. The caps locks could be on. It could be kind of just recognizing some of the characters slightly incorrectly or anything like that. So if there's any difference between what's stored in the system for the batch ID and what is actually put up by the scan, we're going to get one of those batch mismatches. So if we go on to the next slide there, just kind of go a little bit more in depth into those last two. So with scanners and software, of course, older versions of software, these are, as we see software software issues appearing, we do get in contact with the software providers and try and update the software and get rid of these bugs. But obviously, if you're using an older version, then some of these changes may not have been implemented, and there could be some glitches or bugs still in there. And then the other possibly larger kind of cause of these types of issues are the scanner issues themselves. So whether that's the caps lock being on when you're scanning or the actual scanner getting misconfigured. Now, in general, we see with wholesalers, those misconfigured scanners actually get reconfigured and correctly configured very quickly, which we'd like to thank you for to minimize those alerts. But of course, something that we need to have a constant eye on. So the process to resolve these types of issues in wholesalers are generally more complex, but I think we do have a good handle on that for the most part, certainly. But if you are having any issues with this, or you're seeing a pattern of alerts coming from your location due to software or scanner issues, please do get in contact with us, and we'll do whatever we can to support you. And then, of course, training is the big one here. So we would like to kind of remind everyone that a big thing that we can do to really minimize the number of alerts when we see a scanner or software issue, because of just the sheer amount of scanning that happens in wholesaler locations, we can get lots and lots of alerts, up to hundreds of alerts, due to just one scanner being misconfigured. So the earlier that's reported, the earlier it will be resolved, and we'll really be able to minimize the number of alerts that's caused by one single issue. So if we go on to the next slide there. So the IMTs are intermarket transactions. Just going to quickly kind of talk a little bit about this, because they're certainly relevant to wholesalers, especially when, for instance, we have some of those data issues where data isn't uploaded. We'll see a lot of IMTs because if it's not uploaded in the IE market, but the EU hub might have the batch as relevant for several markets, it'll start initiating these IMTs, these intermarket transactions. So it's just the functionality within the hub that will kind of send the scan and the query coming from the scan to the NMVS, or the National Medicines Verification System, for a different market. So for instance, if packs are shared between Ireland and Malta, and the scan is sent up to the IMVS and it's checked against the IMVS, but batch isn't found, the scan then goes on to the EU hub, and it'll see, oh, well, that pack is meant to be in IE and Malta, and it can check for the Maltese system to see if that pack is in there. As well as that, if we have packs that, for instance, don't have IE as a market at all. So for instance, the packs that were released only in Malta, or perhaps only in several other markets, when that scan goes up to the EU hub, it will then be redirected or diverted to one of those other NMVS, and it can do the scan the same way that it would do for the IMVS, but of course checking a different repository of data. So as we see here, there is a greater risk of alerts with IMTs, just because that data is going all across between different NMVSs, different systems, and each leg of that transaction will pretty much have the opportunity to cause a system timeout. So just lots and lots of kind of, I guess, nodes or endpoints being involved within this transaction, which can cause the system to time out and give us an alert. Another thing just that we'd like to note is bulk verification is not supported for intermarket transactions. So these are things that you can do within a transaction that's only within the IMVS. So if you're looking to verify in bulk lots of packs that are certainly within the IMVS, it will work and it'll go through. But if the data is only held in the market outside of the IE market, then those won't go through, just to remind you of that. So if you go on to the next one there, Ida. Just going to take you through a little bit of an overview of where we're at in terms of alerts. So this is just what our alert rate was per day since the start of the year. As you can see, we had a few spikes there during January, mid-January, and in general, there was a bit of kind of variation at the start of the year, just coming after Christmas and stuff like that, but it is beginning to peter out, as you can see. However, we're not at our, I guess, our goal, which is 0.05. That alert rate of 0.05 is our ultimate goal that we always are striving to get to, and then continue on, get even lower than. At the moment, we're hovering between 0.1 and 0.15 week on week. And although this represents significant progress, we still need to just do that final little push to get us down to where we need to go. So if we go to the next slide there, we'll see some specific weekly alert rates. So week 2, as you saw, with a few of those spikes in it, had a 0.38% alert rate and a 0.29% end user alert rate. And then we see as we go through the next few weeks, that actually steadily comes down. And then week 5, which was not last week, but the week before, we had a 0.11% alert rate, both overall and for end users. And then if we look at the last IMVO monitoring report, so taking into account all of the markets within F&D, we see this was done for week 52, which is a bit of a variable week in general. However, the overall alert rate across all of Europe was very similar to the other reports that came out in the last year, and that was 0.27. So although we are underneath that, we still have a ways to go to be kind of where we want to be, which is around that minimum alert to scan ratio of 0.01 from Slovenia, and a few other markets also attained this that week. So it's definitely attainable. It's definitely something that we can strive for. And then that maximum alert to scan ratio of 3.41, that was very much so a blip from Malta there. So if we go on to the next slide there, just to kind of give a breakdown of what these alert types are, kind of which ones we're getting. So this is again from the start of the year. So we've had about 33,500 A7 or ones where packs are already in the requested state. These are, again, by and large, procedural errors, and they're without a doubt the largest contributor to alerts in this market. And these are the double decommissioning, so things just getting decommissioned multiple times in the same location, or being decommissioned somewhere and then the pack physically moving to another location and being decommissioned somewhere else. And that's kind of the one that we are desperate to push down as quickly as possible. The next one there is the batch ID mismatch. These are, again, those kind of scanner and software issues mostly. After that, we get a similar number of A3s of the pack not found. And a lot of these would also be scanner software issues, but we also see a little bit of data errors in there. After that, those A2s are, by and large, the data being uploaded a little late. And while they don't represent as large an amount as the others, that's one that we can definitely kind of push down as kind of the wholesaler group, because when they come in, if they're scanned and reported quickly to the MAHs, that can really kind of avoid a lot of alerts down the line. And then after that, we have a few very small categories, which is the A24s, the A52s, and the A54s. These are all much more, I suppose, uncommon, and those are ones that we deal with as they come in, really. So if we go on to the next one, I think I'm handing back over to Ida for these, and I'd like to thank you all for that.
Thanks, Paul, for that. So now we're going to focus in on the plan for ending use and learn. And if you remember, there are several phases to this plan. So I'm just going to skip basically straight to phase 3 because we've already completed phase 1 and 2. So phase 3 is the upcoming phase, of course. And what we want for this phase is we want all alerts generated when wholesalers scan return packs to be investigated, so that any suspected falsification can be ruled out. And we've got more slides in detail of what this involves. But just to explain that, I suppose one of the overall reasons for this phase is that we do see when we're looking at samples of alerts coming through, and we focus in on what's causing, say, some of the what looks like double decommissioning alerts that we see. We do see that pharmacies are returning packs to wholesalers in a decommissioned state, and then those are going back out to other pharmacists. And of course, when that second pharmacist scans the pack, they are then generating an alert because that pack is shown as having been decommissioned elsewhere. So really one real objective of this phase is to sort of break that chain of happening. So we want pharmacists to stop sending back packs in a decommissioned state, and we want then the returns to be scanned, and if they are decommissioned, we don't want it going out to pharmacists again. Phase 4 then will apply to pharmacies and hospitals, and that's when we switch on what we call the RAG colors, so the red, amber, green colors associated with the operation codes that come back when you scan a pack. Phase 5 will be the pilot of the alert handling procedures with pharmacies, hospitals, and wholesalers. So during that phase, we want all alerts generated as a result of scanning activity to be investigated by the pilot group, but we will still be in use and learn, so it won't be necessary to withhold packs from supply until the alert is resolved during this phase. And IMVO, of course, will manage this pilot, and we're hoping to start with a small number of participants and build from there so that we really kind of test our alert management guidance and make sure that the process is working. Phase 6 will be the ending of use and learn for wholesalers for all remaining activities, and that's the 9th of May. At that point, all alerts generated by wholesalers would have to be investigated and suspected falsification ruled out before the packs may be returned to saleable stock or supplied. Then on the 30th of May is phase 7. That's when end of use and learn ends for pharmacy, or end of use and learn happens for pharmacies and hospitals. At that stage, all alerts generated by them will have to be investigated and packs withheld until the alert is resolved. So at that stage, then we're fully out of the use and learn phase. So focusing in on phase 3, then wholesalers to investigate alerts generated on returns. So when you verify or decommission a pack, your FMD software probably displays a response which contains text and it's color coded. So you're seeing green, amber, red, depending on the response back of the scan. Amber and red responses are commonly described as alerts. However, in the European Medicines Verification System, only so-called level 5 exceptions are alerts that represent potential falsification. And there is a sort of an appendix slide with this deck that sort of explains the details of those levels 1 to 5 classification systems that you'll be able to read afterwards. So a bit more on level 5 alerts generated on returns. So you may know that an alert is a level 5 alert if there's a unique alert ID and response returned by your FMD software. This is not the case for other levels of alerts or exceptions. All level 5 alerts will be flagged as red by your FMD software if you have our traffic lights switched on. Level 5 alerts are automatically sent to IMVO and recorded in our NMVS alerts management system. So they can all be seen in there. From the 28th of February, all level 5 alerts generated when returned packs are scanned must be investigated by wholesalers to rule out falsification, and IMVO must be informed of the outcome of this investigation. Examples of level 5 alerts generated on returns. So most typical alerts you're probably likely to get in return will be pack not found, batch not found, or batch ID mismatch. So alerts that sort of Paul explained earlier. So pack not found, typically it's a scanner scope or issue, it just hasn't read the information properly, or the data has not been uploaded by the MAH. That's least likely if it's going to be a return, of course, because you would expect the data to be up there at that point in time. And again, batch not found, batch ID mismatch, again, it could be a technical issue. So in terms of what to do next, when you get those kind of return or those kind of alerts, is make sure there's no technical issue that's causing that alert. If the software or scanner issue is resolved, you can verify the pack again, and if it's successful, you can proceed in accordance with your normal returns process. So just an alert doesn't mean that the pack is never, that it's never possible to put the pack back into saleable stock. It might mean you just need to sort out what caused the alert, sort it out, verify the pack, it's all fine, and then you can put the pack back into saleable stock. Now, exceptions generated on returns which are not level 5 alerts. So any response from a scan that does not contain the unique alert ID is not a level 5 alert. Some of the responses will be flagged as red by your FMD software, even though they're not level 5 alerts, as they indicate that the pack cannot be supplied. For example, the pack is expired. Exceptions which are not level 5 alerts are not recorded in NMVS alerts, but they are recorded in your FMD software log. And also, of course, we mentioned, you'll see if you have the traffic lights, you'll see the colors sort of flash up. From the 28th of February, you must review all exceptions generated on returns that are not level 5 alerts, as some of them may mean that the pack cannot be returned to saleable stock or other action is required. So an example of that would be if you've verified a pack, it may come back with a message saying that the pack has already been supplied at another location. If it's verification, it won't generate an alert, but it will have a red color on it. Examples of non-level 5 exceptions generated when verifying returns. So as I already mentioned, pack already decommissioned. So it could have been that the pack was previously decommissioned at your site before it was actually sent out to the pharmacy. But these packs cannot be returned to saleable stock in a decommissioned state. So you could, if you were the site that decommissioned it in the first place, you could try to reverse a decommission action and reactivate the pack. But remember, it can only be done within 10 days of that original decommissioning action. But if it is successful, you can then return the stock to saleable stock and proceed in accordance with your normal returns process, if that's allowed. Another message you may get is pack already decommissioned in another location. So that was, it was decommissioned by a customer or elsewhere. So packs like that can't be returned to saleable stock because you can't reactivate them or recommission them. So it's going to be a matter for you to decide whether you will accept these packs back. Pharmacies and hospitals have been advised that wholesalers may not take back decommissioned packs from the 28th of February as they can't be returned to saleable stock. If you decide to return the packs to your customer, they only have 10 days from the date on which they originally decommissioned the pack to reverse the step. So keep in mind that during use and learn, you may have supplied the customer with a pack that was previously returned to you in a decommissioned state. If the message indicates that the pack is exported or locked, please note that pharmacies or hospitals could not have decommissioned it to this state as their FMD software does not permit them to do so. So in that scenario, you probably have to contact IMVO just to find out the history of the pack. But this is a very important slide. So, and this just going back to my earlier point of, this is really get our certain volume of alerts down. If we can stop this sort of cycle of packs in a decommissioned state, going back to wholesalers being returned to wholesalers, and then those leaving the wholesalers again and going to another site, and then raising alerts as a result. So a few more examples of non-level 5 exceptions generated when verifying returns. So product not found. So that could be a non-FMD pack was scanned, for example, a medical device. So if you believe that this pack is medicinal product in scope for FMD, note the pack details and contact IMVO and review your process for identifying what's in and out of scope of FMD to ensure that non-FMD packs are not scanned in future. Batch is recalled is another potential message. In this case, the pack is being recalled since it was originally supplied to the customer. In that case, you need to follow the instructions issued to you by the MAH for the relevant product recall. Examples of non-level 5 exceptions generated when reactivating returns from Article 23 customers. Example 1, pack cannot be reactivated time limit exceeded. So in that case, more than 10 days have elapsed since the pack was decommissioned by you. The pack can't be returned to saleable stock because those 10 days have elapsed, so it's no longer possible to return it to active status. Second message possible, pack cannot be reactivated because it's already active. So in that case, it's most likely that the pack was not supplied by you in the first place, because if you had decommissioned it for Article 23, you would have already decommissioned it and only you would have been able to reactivate it. So again, in that sort of unusual situation, we suggest contacting IMVO for assistance. Thirdly, PAC cannot be activated as it was decommissioned in another location. So assuming that all PACs you supply to this customer are decommissioned by you, the likelihood is that this PAC that they've sent back was not supplied by you. So again, it's probably a matter for you to follow up with the customer, or if you have any queries around it, again, contact IMVO for further assistance. Our recommended returns alert management process for wholesalers. So National Alert Guidance Management Guidance is being developed by IMVO with stakeholders and with the HPRA and PSI. The next two slides recommend an approach for you to follow from the 28th of February until full guidance is available. For level 5 alerts, initiate an investigation to look for a root cause on returns. If you identify a technical issue, depending on the alert type, follow the advice on the next slide, follow the advice on next steps in slide 28, which will be, of course, in the slide pack that we share. Please advise IMVO of the root cause as soon as possible using NMVS alerts, and we'll have more on the NMVS alert system in a few minutes. Or, of course, you can email us at alert support. If you can't identify a technical issue and the alert type is suggestive of an MAH data issue, for example, the pack or the batch is not found, then contact the MAH to ask them to investigate. IMVO will assist with this if you have no direct point of contact with the MAH. The MAH may request a photo of the pack, as this may provide enough information to enable them to confirm that the pack is not falsified. If you're waiting for feedback on whether the alert is due to an MAH data issue, keep the pack in quarantine until the MAH either confirms they have identified the root cause or they request the pack to be returned for analysis on the basis that end user data and system issues have been ruled out, so that they're now dealing with a suspected falsification and they need to analyze the pack. The MAH will advise on how the pack should be returned to them. IMVO activity in relation to alerts. So IMVO already monitors the IMVS for large numbers of level 5 alerts or unusual patterns of alerts for a product or a particular batch or end user location or a specific F&D software system. We then proactively contact the relevant end user or MAH or F&D software provider to correct the issue and prevent further alerts. So it's an ongoing effort from us all the time, trying to get those avoidable alerts removed from the process. Our objective is to ensure that issues leading to large numbers of alerts in a location, perhaps due to a faulty scanner or a software issue or with a particular batch, we want to get them quickly identified and resolved as soon as possible. As Paul mentioned earlier, particularly with wholesalers, you know, if a scanner goes faulty for even a short period of time, it can start generating a lot of alerts. Now, NMVS alerts, that's been mentioned in a couple of slides already. So what is it exactly? So it is a collaborative tool or an application, if you like, which facilitates efficient handling of alerts by allowing all the relevant parties to manage, track, and document alerts. It provides real-time information on the status of alerts based on information entered by the end user and or the MAH and or IMVO. So it allows all the parties to quickly communicate with each other about an alert while preserving end user anonymity vis-a-vis the MAH, which is a core principle of IMVS. And of course, it allows everyone to maintain an audit trail of their own actions for inspection purposes. The system is just a simple web-based application, can be accessed around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If necessary, the end user can upload a pack photo if requested by the MAH. And if you as a wholesaler want to set up an account in NMVS alerts to manage your alerts, just get in touch with us. We will be sending out more information about that after this webinar. And just to be aware that not all MAHs are set up yet to use NMVS alerts, but we are continuing to onboard more and more of them. So what we're going to do is we have a just a 5 minutes demo of the NMVS alerts system, just to give you an overview of how it works. It's very simple. I'm just going to hopefully share that with you now. Bear with me. I'll stop there for a sec. So as I say on bakery programs, here's one I prepared earlier. And hopefully this will work for us. And just to point out as well, we will share this training video with you as well after the webinar.
NMVS Alerts is the alert management system used by IMVO. It's a simple web-based application used by multiple NMVOs all across Europe. It doesn't require any special setup. You can just access it from your normal internet browser. In order to use NMVS Alerts, you must first be onboarded. Onboarding means that IMVO registers you in the system and creates a record for your user. You will then receive an email with a link to the system. It will look like this. Clicking on the link in the email enables you to create a username and password for your organization, and you will then be able to log on to NMVS Alerts to manage your alerts. Once logged into NMVS Alerts, you will see the alerts for your organization and only your organization. Note that you can only see level 5 alerts. These are the alerts that generate a unique alert code. You can also see the product name, batch ID, serial number, and the relevant MAH for each alert. You can also see the status of the alert itself. If the status is green, the alert is fully resolved. The status can be either open, investigated, or resolved. Note that there is a toggle button to toggle between product name and product code, and the blue bell over to the right highlights any alerts where one of the parties has saved an update to the alert. The end user, the NMVS, and the MAH of the product involved in the alert can all see the alert, but note that the MAH cannot see, will never see, the name, address, or any contact details of the end user. And just to clarify, the end user is a person or location who generated the alert when they scanned the pack. The default date range when you log in is the last 3 days, but you can easily change this to a different set of dates. A maximum date range of 90 days is permitted. The selection fields at the top of the screen allow you to filter the alerts by the criteria you specify. And if necessary, you can save these selection criteria as a filter if you want to reuse them. Click on the Unresolved box at the top to only see those alerts that are still open or under investigation. When you click on an individual alert, you can see that there are 4 sections: an end user inspection section, an IMVO section, an MAH section, and an NCA section. The NCA will only be involved if an alert involves a suspected falsified medicine. Note that you only have edit access to your own section. If you are an end user, you can only edit the end user section. All other sections are grayed out. Similarly, an MAH can only edit the MAH section. When you have investigated the alert, document the results of your investigation here. If you know it was a technical or a procedural error, you can tick the appropriate box. If you know the root cause of the alert and know the pack is authentic, you should document the root cause here, and the pack can be returned to saleable stock. If your investigation fails to identify the root cause, you should still use this section to document the investigation steps you have taken and any knowledge you have about the history of the pack. This will help IMVO and the MAH who will continue the investigation. Remember, the pack must be set aside until the root cause is confirmed and any possibility of a falsified medicine ruled out. When you have finished reviewing and updating all the alerts for your organization, you can log out. Finally, for additional guidance and training, you can go to the Help section as shown and download a detailed written end-user guide.
So that's just a quick overview of how the IMVO alerts system works, and you can see that it is a very simple system to use. So when we send out information after the webinar, we'll be sending out more information about setting up wholesalers to use NMDS alerts as well, because we would certainly be encouraging use of this. Otherwise, you'd have to rely on emails going back and forth between us, the wholesaler, and the end user, or MAH potentially. So it's something we think will help speed up the whole alert management process. So on to the next slide, which is Brexit. I think Leonie, you might give us an update on Brexit.
Yeah, thanks, Aisha. Next slide, please. So just very briefly, what we've seen so far is that Brexit has not been an issue in terms of supply or extra alerts. So I think that's been positive, given that over the last 3 or 4 years we've had, various concerns in that direction. We know that there are derogations in place from human and veterinary medicines, and that these, the decision was made at the end of last year by the Commission to extend these derogations until the end of this year, or until a legislative proposal is put in place, which I'll come to in a moment. So in the meantime, you would just follow the current HPRA guidance in relation to what you do with packs, particularly exporting in relation to guidance to the UK. The Commission on the 17th of December, it published an amendment to the delegated regulation, and that's going through a legislative process, so there's various stages in that. And basically what this amendment is proposing to do is to extend until the end of 2024 the current derogation from the requirement to mark these packs as exported when you send them to the UK. Now, the derogation has been refined somewhat in the new delegated regulation amendment proposal, and it only applies to UK single market packs or packs that are joint UK packs with Ireland, Cyprus and or Malta. So for those packs, once this amendment comes into force, which we would expect to happen in the next month or so, you don't have to decommission them as exported if you're sending them to the UK. The other thing that's quite interesting in the recent proposal is that the Commission now wants changes made to the IMVO itself. And basically, if these UK only or UK joint packs, and when I mean UK joint packs with Ireland, Malta or Cyprus, if these are scanned outside Northern Ireland, Malta or Cyprus, they will generate what's called a non-union pack alerts. So effectively the Commission wants to cut off the movement of UK packs to countries other than Ireland, Malta or Cyprus, and obviously Northern Ireland. And for that reason has requested that they will generate these alerts when they go to countries outside this small group. So the whole idea of this proposal is to ensure continuity of supply in these small markets, which are traditionally very dependent on spillover of a certain number of packs or a certain amount of pack sharing with the UK. Next slide, please. So just to let you know that IMVO has recently issued advice to manufacturers on how to manage packs, particularly packs where they're sending them to GB and or Northern Ireland. So what they've said to manufacturers is if you're shipping or making products for GB only, so not Northern Ireland, you are allowed to remove the serialization of those packs, because effectively GB is completely outside the EU in pharmaceutical legislation space. Equally, if you want, you can continue to retain the serialization, and we are aware that quite a few companies are sending packs to GB only, so not to NI, and that they are choosing to retain the serialization. Two reasons for this. One, we're aware that these 2D barcodes are quite widely used in the UK in various systems in the NHS and other places. And secondly, the UK has drafted legislation to reintroduce a serialization system that will be very similar to what's in place in Europe. A lot of companies are very reluctant to take barcodes off now and have to go back and put them back on maybe in 2 years' time. So they're choosing to keep going with them. I suppose the big piece that's relevant to us here in Ireland is the advice to companies who choose to do this is, so if you serialize your packs going to GB, that you actually upload the data for these packs to the EMVS. So this is important to avoid an issue where, say, single market packs come in from GB. They're serialized, they're scanned here, and if the data isn't in the EMVS, then they're going to generate pack not found alerts. So the fact that companies are being advised to upload this data will help prevent those alerts. So that's helpful from our perspective. If companies then ship or make product for Northern Ireland, the normal FMD rules will apply, and they must apply all the usual safety features and upload the data for these packs to the EMVS. So that just gives you a flavour of the advice that manufacturers have been given by IMVO in the last week. I think that's me finished, Isha. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll be taking over now. So yeah, this is just a quick slide on what we would ask of you now. So just a few things to really prepare us for kind of going into this new phase of the end of use and learn, and kind of how we can best set ourselves up for the next short while. So the first one is certainly update your QMS procedures. So there's a few changes on how you're going to be dealing with returns, and we just ask you to update all of your QMS documents and to make sure that those are ready to go for this new phase. Certainly intensify your efforts to prevent alerts. Certainly this whole process will go much easier if the amount of avoidable alerts does decrease. So if we can prevent alerts, that's much better than resolving them after they've happened, of course. And that's, for instance, the kind of quintessential example that we talked about there, recognizing scanners malfunctioning or anything like that as soon as possible, and avoiding these kind of large spikes of alerts. Ensuring that your staff are fully trained. Again, that encompasses all of this really, and just making sure that everybody knows what they will be doing when this new phase comes in. And then the last one there is just some wholesalers we know are already doing this, but to start analyzing the status of the packs that are returned. So when they come in, verifying them and seeing when the exceptions and alerts actually do pop out, and see what these root causes actually are. So doing these investigations and seeing where the kind of larger numbers of alerts are coming from, and that will, as well as our own kind of investigations on the patterns of alerts, that will really give us a really clear picture as to what we need to do to push those numbers down. And I think after that we have another thing that we all need to do is just to decide. Again, this is a decision between yourselves and your customers. So decide what you're going to do if customers do send back decommissioned packs that aren't going to be able to return to saleable stock. So that is a decision that wholesalers will be making at wholesaler level. And then to ask customers to just confirm when returning that they are active. So a lot of packs we do see are going through the returns process in a decommissioned state, and there are many kind of, I guess, common sense ideas to try and to curb that. So one example we've just given there is a tick box on the returns form, just asking people to verify that yes, this is an active pack that I'm returning to you. And then the next year, just letting us know if you have any queries. So that constant communication between us and you will certainly make the alert management the alert management process go much smoother. Or if you just need clarification on anything, of course, please do contact us. And then lastly, if you are interested in participating in that pilot of this national alert management guidance, please let us know and we'll get you involved in that. Okay, so I think after that we just have a few contact details and a few kind of information slides just at the end. I won't read them out, but these are all the contacts that you might need for any dealings with IMVO. And think after that, it's just the Q&A side. Oh, some more information, that appendix that we talked about before. And now here's onto the Q&A here.